Introduction. Since the creation of sewing machine, hundreds of large factories rose up all around Americans to begin factory of clothing. The creation of this has also led the research development of new technology that would make everyday operations easier and more efficient in the households. The invention and successful sewing machine is a story of early American technologies, commercial and legal resourcefulness, which show important realistic lesson of how patients work and understood today. Statement of the problem. The study seeks to determine the experience of traditional tailors in adopting new garments machinery, a phenomenological study of Madrid Surigao del Sur. Specifically, it sought to answer the following question. Number 1, what is the profile of the respondents in terms of 1.1 age, 1.2 sex, 1.3 sewing machine use? Number 2, what is the experience of traditional tailors in adopting new garments machinery? 2.1 garments machine resources, 2.2 tailors resources, 2.3 improving working condition, and 2.4 productivity. Number 3, is there any chances that all tailors can be used the new garments machinery? Number 4, based on the findings, what invention can be proposed to improve the working condition of tailors? Significance of the study. Through the result, they can propose and initiate in-service pieces of training and the seminars for the tailors, as well as an enrichment center of the garment student. Second, tailors can be guided in providing and opportunities and intervention to those garments students so as to enhance their experience of traditional tailors in adopting new garments machinery. Research methodology, research design. To understand the purpose of this paper, the researcher will be using a qualitative research design, which is primarily descriptive research. This type of study attempts to determine, describe, or identify what are their experience in using the new garments machinery. Furthermore, it is closely associated with observational studies. This means that qualitative research design gives clear information to natural settings and views of the participants. It requires the researcher to be immersed to the group of people being studied. So, to grasp the study experience of traditional tailors in adopting new garments machinery, a phenomenological study, the researcher will be used a qualitative research design. Next is respondents. The respondents in this study will be randomly selected. The traditional tailors who are residents in Madrid Surigao del Sur. The researcher will choose 10 respondents. These respondents was chosen for the experience on using new garments machinery. Research participants. The researcher will use a selective method in choosing participants under the inclusion and exclusion criteria. The participants of this study were composed students and mothers, of course. The researcher used a conversational approach to identify the participants will best provide the information we need. The primary participants should be the youth and adults as long as they are tailors. Then, the researcher will select youth and adults who have passed the criteria. Lastly, the key information were willing to participate. The information gathered is completely confidential. The subject name will not be associated with the focus group. Next, data gathering procedure. These are the procedures employed to collect the data for this research. First is permission. In gathering the data, we will ask permission from the barangay captain of Barangay Carreno, Madrid, Surigao del Sur, that the researcher will conduct an interview for the study. After the barangay captain's approval, the researcher will personally ask the permission of the people who are qualified for the criteria. Once confirmed, the researcher will set a schedule for the interview session based on the participants' desire. Second, informed written consent. The researcher will formally inquire the agreement of the participant to participate in this study. The participant will give a signed consent form to state the agreement to participate in the study. The researcher will propose not just a written consent, but an informative written consent. Next, in data gathering procedure is interview. The data gathering of the study will be administered by the researcher through one-on-one interview. Since our study, our design is qualitative, so we will use a one-on-one interview. The researcher will use a proper location or setting to avoid distraction. Conversational approach will use to pursue in-depth information around a topic. The researcher will address the terms of confidential and purpose of the interview. The participant is allowed to ask questions. Next, recording and transcription. During the interview, the participant's response will be filmed on the researcher's smartphone and will be simultaneously recorded on the researcher's audio recording device and then transcribed. After the transcription, the single ideas of participants' response will be highlighted. Next is data analysis. In the interpretation of data, coding is the first of data analysis, as it helps move away from the participant statement to the more abstract interpretation of the interview data. The researcher will gather the raw data and later be studied and analyzed. Based on the result of the analyzed data or the answers of match within the majority, the researcher will later arrive on their findings, conclusion, and recommendations. So lastly, in gathering the data procedure is ethical consideration. This study is guided by the ethical consideration on research with human participants set out by the researchers. All the research activities carried out shall be supported with the ethical consideration. The participants were selected based on the research judgment. Voluntary participation of participants in the research is important. Moreover, participants have a right to withdraw from the study or at any time if they wish to do so. The protection of the privacy of research participants has to be ensured. Privacy of the participant is of the paramount is important. Any type of misleading information as well as presentation of primary data finding is a blast way must be avoided.